Excellent. I think we are live, Gabi.
Here we go again. Hello, Mateus. Hi, how
Hello,
you doing?
Gabi.
What's up?
The
Feeling good
sky
today?
is up.
The sky's up. All right. Mateus, we are going live again today. We are live right now today. And we would like to say hello and welcome to everyone who's watching us right now and who is not watching us right now, but after the video is uploaded, if you are watching this, welcome as well. Uh, and this is the third episode of a very important series of videos, of live videos that we are streaming on YouTube, which is what no one tells you about learning English. This third episode is about how you organize your study sessions. And why, Mateus, why did we include this topic in the series? Why was it so important to to include this, yeah, in
Mhm.
our series?
Very nice. It's a pleasure to have one more discussion with you, Gabi, and uh, so that we can elaborate, we can talk more about some important subjects that they are a little bit more comprehensive and they treat the studies and the development of the language more seriously and comprehensively. Um, so, why have we decided to include this one? It is connected with fundamentally how we organize our study sessions because our students they are usually they are actually adults, right? We have some teenagers, but fundamentally they are adults, and adults have busy lives. But they also have the objective to become fluent in the language. So, one strategy that some of them adopt is they spend some days without studying. They spend the week without studying, and then on the weekend on the weekends they try to catch up, right? So they study for
Compensate
e-
for the days.
exactly, they study 4 hours on Saturday perhaps, and they study a little bit more on Sunday. And what we are discussing is how valid this is, because once we understand how the cognitive process works, we will identify that this technique might not be the best one, might not be the optimal one, because it doesn't respect how the functioning of our brains. So instead of studying those 4 hours in one day and then 2 hours on the other, we will learn what would be a better alternative to this. So fundamentally, we will be discussing about the length of the study sessions, right? And one that respects our cognitive system. But we will also be talking about what exactly is studying, right? Because we are talking about study sessions. We will be talking about study sessions, but we need to clarify exactly what a study means in study session, so that after we can understand how long these sessions, this series of activities should be.
All right, and so that everyone is able to understand, guys, we are talking about the duration of your study sessions and what it is to really study effectively. Yeah, what it is to really study in an efficient way. Yeah, Mateus will help us understand that clearer, more clearly. I mean, and the goal is to reconsider the way that you organize your study sessions the way that you study. All right. So let's begin with that. Let's begin with that, Mateus. How can I tell that? How can I be sure to study effectively? I mean, when it comes to learning a language.
Oh, good, good. So let's get down to business.
Here we go.
Um, Studying sometimes is misconceptualized as simply reading or even watching a video, and not necessarily interacting actively with that, because when you are reading, um, you are exposing yourself to information, but that information has not become knowledge per se. Yes, because there are different levels in how a piece of a concept or a skill or an idea can be absorbed by your brain. Uh, when you are first receiving that, that is information. Yeah, the person that is transmitting might have that idea as knowledge, right? The person has absorbed that idea as knowledge. The person that is teaching, that is transmitting, has that information, has that idea as knowledge, absorbed as knowledge.
You
But
mean the
you that
author, the writer?
yeah, the writer of the book, the presenter of the video, or of the
Hmm.
course, they have practiced that, they know about that, they know how to use it, they know the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts of that specific subject. But you, the
Hmm.
learner, when you are discovering first the information, you are getting in touch with that idea, that initially is simply information, it's noise in a sense. um, and that idea will continue being simply information if you interact with that passively, because it is just in the moment that you actively interact with that idea will start to, that information will start to become knowledge. It will go deeper, right, in your cognition, in your brain, in your mind. And so then there is these two ways of studying: passive, which is reading, watching videos, being exposed to the information. This is passive. Reading could be considered like a pre-studying, yeah, a preparation to study, a preparation to really actively interact with that. And then on the other hand, there is the active studying. Active studying means that you adopt a much more participative um, interaction with that knowledge. This can come through different possibilities and different activities. When you are reading a book, you can ask questions, right? So you formulate questions about the topic, and then you try to answer with your own words. This is one way that you create the questions for yourself about that knowledge, and you try to answer with your own words. You are not simply
I would say, sorry.
you are not simply paraphrase, you are not simply repeating, right? You are creating, you are
Hmm.
interpreting.
That's really challenging for a lot of English learners, I would say, that that would work specifically in the ability of creating questions, formulating ideas, which is the most challenging thing for everyone who begins studying with us in the alpinist journey. Everyone who becomes an alpinist has this sort of challenge that to face. Yeah, how can I engage in a conversation, ask somebody questions for what I want to discover about this person? How can I uh, answer questions that I am asked um, decently? Yeah, so this is, I believe, uh, a life changing way to study when it comes to using input to uh, actively construct, actively build upon that information and acquire knowledge and acquire the structures necessary, right?
Exactly, and this also is not limited by studying a language, right? This applies to all the knowledge that the students might want to develop. This can be useful in a graduation, this can be useful in a post graduation, in a master course, in a hobby that they want to develop. So actively interacting with the material makes the whole difference. So formulating questions and answering them, doing exercises, doing quizzes.
Mm-hmm.
So putting the knowledge into practice, into action somehow.
Mm-hmm.
The students, they can also pretend they are a teacher, that they are teaching someone. They can take their phone and record their voices explaining that subject, explaining
Mm-hmm.
maybe the passage of a book, maybe a chapter. They read that, and after they record
A
their voice
paragraph.
explaining.
Mm-hmm.
They can talk about a grammar structure. So
A movie they watched, a movie
yeah,
that they have
completely, a
watched.
movie, a book,
Mm-hmm.
something that is of their interest, a topic, a discussion. So they um, actively produce, right? Speaking, yeah. Other possibility is doing mind maps. So they take the information that is on the book or the information that is on the video, and they transform this to a mind map or to a concept map, right? That they connect one idea with the other, that they bring an arrow and then they connect these, and then they branch down to subtopics, and these
Mm-hmm.
subtopics, they might have some examples, or they might have subtopics, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can visually identify that information, which for the brain is a much more dynamic way of absorbing,
Mm-hmm.
because the linearity of a book sometimes does not help working with the visual capacity that we have, because that's very monotonous. So a
Mm-hmm.
mind map helps uh, disposing the concepts spatially, so that we can associate that information better, and we use our visual capacity to learn more.
Mm-hmm. I hope you guys are taking notes on everything we're saying because we would like you to try to apply all of that to your study sessions, all right, people? Take notes of the strategies we are giving you: mind maps, active studying, creating questions and answering them, recording your voice, speaking, recording a video of yourself explaining something, trying to explain that thing you studied about to a friend, to someone else. This is I believe very connected to that. And doing some quizzes, some exercises that are related to that. If I spoke too fast, please just go back and take notes.
Yeah, just return that it is fine. Excellent, excellent. So then we see that actively studying makes the whole difference while you are interacting. This is the first part of our discussion, was to see what study is. And then we can mention what study is not, right? Study is not simply passively reading. Studying, I think Hamlet is with something. Can you? um, so then, guys, what study is not? Study is not simply reading or passively interacting with that information. Study is when you actively engage with what has been presented or what you are learning. We are conceptualizing this discussion to learning English, but you can also consider that this applies to different subjects and to different skills that you are trying to develop, that you are trying to become more familiar. So, study is actively interacting. Passively interacting with a topic is simply exposition. Exposition is when we expose ourselves to that information so that we become more familiar with it, but that just becomes knowledge once we give one step further and we interact with that and we actively engage with it.
Look at the criminal. You are making a big mess.
Hamlet always likes to take the opportunity of of the lives to mess around, right? He spends
Yeah.
the rest of the day really quiet, and then
Yeah,
when we begin the
sleeping.
lives, he goes wild.
And now he's okay. I believe he wanted to stay here. But not like that. Lilith. Okay, you can go down.
Oh my
Jesus.
god, oh my god. So, hello, people that are watching. What are you thinking of the live so far?
Yeah, please comment in the chat or in the leave a comment below. Are these strategies, are these things that we are mentioning relevant for you? Are these things helping you to identify how you could improve your study sessions? Because this is the objective of today's live, right? Help you guys improve your study sessions and your daily contact with the language. So
Exactly.
where were we? I think I missed some.
Yeah, we stopped on active studying, right? And then I was
Okay.
telling them, Gabi, the difference between exposition, that you just receive the information, and studying, because studying is actively interacting
Mhm.
with that, and not simply being exposed. Yes. What
Mhm.
do you think about this, Gabi?
I completely agree with you because I can tell everyone about my experience when I before we started studying Italian, before we started studying French, me and you, Mateus. I had the attempt. I attempted to learn French by what was more comfortable to me. I mean, I studied some grammar because I am a grammar lover. Yes, I love studying about grammar. I know it's weird, but it's comfortable to me to study about grammar. And I was not exposing myself so much. I was exposed mostly to songs in French. And okay, I tried to exercise rhythm, pronunciation, comprehension, singing along with the songs, reading the lyrics out loud, etc., and trying to understand the song. But when it came to formulating sentences, it was tragically hard for me to create sentences in French. Uh, I would be a lot dependent on memorizing ready-made sentences, ready-made questions, and it was hard for me to improvise and to create um, branching out from going from the ready-made sentences.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm. So you become dependent on on a specific stimulus or a
yes,
specific structure, and then you cannot create, right? And this is
yeah,
something that people usually talk about in English language, because very commonly very commonly people study English during high school. I have
Mm-hmm.
studied, you have studied, the majority of our students have um, been in contact, or they have had some contact with English language during their high school, but they always they say that they can't produce, right? They can't speak, or sometimes they come from an academic background, so they read a lot of articles. They are used to be in touch with English written, yeah. So they
Uh-huh.
read that, but they cannot speak. They cannot produce. And this, Gabi, is other um, consequence of passive studies, because
Mm-hmm.
passive studying gives you the impression that you are learning.
Exactly.
Yes, that's the
You
thing.
can feel the taste of learning.
You feel the taste, but that does not happen in reality.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Passive studying gives you this taste, but it does not really create a mark, or it does not really make that information your own, right? It doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
that yours to use. And this is
Mm-hmm.
connected. Now we get to the other part of our discussion, because the first one, we had a brief introduction about what this live will be talking about. After we discussed on studying and what studying is and what studying is not, actively studying and passively studying. And now we get, Gabi, to the third part of our discussion, that it is on the duration of the study sessions. Now we get
Mm-hmm.
to the aspect. And the first part of our argument is the idea of creating a study session that respects the way that our brain works. Yes. So let
Okay.
me ask you, Gabi, then, what do you think are important characteristics of the brain that influence learning?
Well, I guess I cannot stop thinking of something that we have recently. I'm sorry, he was doing some mess over there. Uh, yes. Uh, the fact that we have seen in a documentary or a video, I don't know, a couple days ago, about the vision constituting 80% of what we imagine. Yes, 80% of what we experience from life is by the vision. And I believe the visualization is extremely present when I try to study. When I think it is a relevant aspect of cognition. Another thing is.
Exactly. We have just a region of our brain in the back of the skull just
Mm-hmm,
for vision, right? Just for visual stimulus. The
mm-hmm,
occipital lobe. So it is
mm-hmm,
a significant part of our brain, that it is a lobe, yeah, because we have the frontal lobe, we have the um, the temporal lobes, the parietal
mm-hmm.
lobes. So we have different lobes on our brain, and then there is just one in the back of the skull connected with um,
The vision.
vision, yes, and with
Mm-hmm,
visual stimulus. So that demands vision, demands a lot of energy.
mm-hmm,
So vision is a very high consuming stimulus, right? It's a
mm-hmm,
high consuming energy stimulus.
mm-hmm. So I believe also because of uh, the contributions Vygotsky had in language learning. I think we benefit a lot from interacting with the surroundings
Mm-hmm.
within the language. So that's why maybe um, we think of immersing ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in that language as something really efficient, like when
Mm-hmm.
your life is all in English. all around you is in English. Everything you think about, you try to think about
Mhm.
in English. So this is another great and important aspect, I guess.
Excellent. And then we could pick up from there and say that one very important thing, some important characteristics of the brain is that one, curiosity is something
Mhm,
fundamental for learning. Uh,
mhm.
Curiosity, when you go after your curiosity, you should, when you go after curiosity, your brain releases feel good chemicals, feel good neurotransmitters. So you have dopamine, you have opioids, so you have relevant chemicals that are released in your bloodstream that these chemicals they make us feel good. So why not to use curiosity when studying? Yes, so in your study sessions, go after your curiosity, go attend. So if you are curious about um, any subject, for example, if you want to know more about psychology, philosophy, history, mathematics, physics, technology, business, marketing, so on and so forth, a topic that calls your attention, that you
Mhm.
always wanted to have time perhaps to study, you always wanted to have the possibility to study, but maybe it's not connected with your profession, use the language studies as a bridge, as an instrument to get in touch with that. That makes the whole difference. Because
Yes.
if you are, for example, when I was studying French, I was in a moment of my life that I was very curious about history, more specifically the Roman Empire history. So then I used it to watch documentaries in French with the audio in French, the subtitles in French, talking about that subject, and I would actively interact with that, taking notes, creating mental maps, asking questions, writing texts. I would, in the end of each week that I watched the documentary, I would separate one day just for watching my interpretation of the documentary thus far. And this is good because I am working, adopting this strategy. I am working with the brain characteristic of curiosity. Curiosity helps learning and it makes us feel good. Other thing now, Gabi, that is a very important characteristic of the brain. Our brain is interconnection, right, of fibers, neurons, that is really well adapted to looking the environment and adapting to it. So taking decisions fast, answering, responding to the external event in a quick manner. So the brain works better with shorter sessions of stimulus than longer ones because we pay more attention to contrast than to simply one thing. So if we are looking like a forest, there are many trees, there are many plants, but then if there is a branch that moves, automatically our eye will look to that. Yes, uh, that
If
calls
you
the
hear a
attention.
sound, yeah, if you hear a different sound, you instinctively pay attention to that.
Exactly. So the
Uh-huh.
brain is really prepared to new stimulus. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens when you study, for example, for a long time, respecting this characteristic of the brain, is that learning becomes monotonous. It is in a way as imagine that your mind, your brain, is a recipient in a way. Yes,
Here he goes again, guys. Here he goes again
with the cup. Yeah,
with the glass
with the glass and
analogy. Pay attention. It's
but
a
then
different analogy this time.
yeah, now it's not about form and substance, it's about, is an analogy about our learning process, not that your brain is empty and then you put information there as the liquid. The objective of this analogy is to show you that you will be learning, you will be consuming information, but then there will be a point that the information will overflow, right? So this knowledge that is overflowing, this information that is overflowing is not being absorbed. So our study sessions, they should fill the cup until here, right? They should not overflow. And to this, Gabi, that is an acronym or a little tool that I would like to transmit to the guys, that your study sessions, they should be SEF.
What in the world is that?
SEF. Short, yeah, intense, yeah, and actually SIF. Yeah,
SIF.
SIF. Yeah,
SIF.
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 Yeah, short, intense, and frequent.
Mm-hmm. Short, intense, and frequent. This sounds like a terrible sexual life. I'm sorry. No, but when it comes to studying, it works, okay, guys? So take it seriously. Please, please, guys, give this video a thumbs up. Come on, now you have to. Now you have
No,
to.
no.
If you're watching this.
If YouTube doesn't cut us, but it is this idea of SIF,
Uh-huh.
short, intense, and
Intense.
frequent, because shorter study sessions, they help us memorizing, they help us learning more, because when we are learning, we are creating new neural connections, right? So
Neurons are expanding and trying to reach.
yes, they are trying to connect.
Uh-huh.
So the neurons, they are creating new pathways. When we see something new, when we learn something new, when we hear something new, there are neural
Beautiful.
connections being formed. But then once the neural connection was formed, it's very weak. Yes, if you don't um, generate stimulus for that neural connection to continue, it will disappear, it will fade
Mm-hmm.
away. So then
Mm-hmm.
this connection that you had once you got first in touch with that will eventually fade out, will eventually disappear. But when you generate other stimulus, that same stimulus, that neural connection gets together once again. And the more you do this, the more you um, generate some sort of activity that creates a stimulus for that, the neural connection will be stronger and stronger and stronger, up to a
Mm-hmm.
point that you do not need to study that often, that you do not need to be in touch with that often, to maintain the connection, because the connection will be maintained by itself.
Mm-hmm. It got strong. I understand that it doesn't matter then if it is a long um a long study session for the brain. It will not be as beneficial as if it is frequent, intense, and short. I mean,
Exactly.
short, intense, and frequent.
Sif.
Uh-huh. That's what it means. SIF. Okay, so let's take it to a more pragmatical example. I'm studying English, but I have no much time during the week, and I end up compensating for that and studying everything during the weekend. So I end up studying like 2.5 hours. Then I have a break. I do something else and go back to study 2 more hours. Let's say a
Hmm.
total of almost 5 hours in a day. Instead of doing that, I should try to distribute short study sessions along the week. Even though I don't have much time, it would be more efficient if these sessions could be uh, the most intense they can be
Actively
and
studying, yes.
frequent. Uh huh.
Intense means active, right?
Mm-hmm.
Intense means actively interacting with that
Mm-hmm.
completely. So instead of studying 4 hours in one day, and then the total of the week that you study is 4 hours. And then let's imagine that we have two cases,
Mm-hmm.
Mary and John. Mary studies half an hour every day and she has classes. She has English classes, for example. This is Mary. And Mary studies in the total of the week. Let's consider she studies 30 minutes every day. So, and she has classes twice a week. So she has two 1 hour classes, 2 hours, plus 3 days studying 30 minutes, 1 hour and a half. So she studies the total of 3 hours and a half. 3 hours and a half, Mary studies. And let's consider John. John studies 3 hours on Saturday and 3 hours on Sunday. So John studies the total of 6 hours in a week, the double of Mary.
Uh-huh.
However, after uh, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, Mary will present a more solid knowledge and a more solid production of English than John, despite the fact that she studies half the time. Because what matters fundamentally is not necessarily the time of exposition, but the quality of exposition and the frequency that this happens. So, short study sessions that are intense and focused are much better than long study sessions that time passes passes very slowly, right? So the person, for example, the person wants to study English or that specific topic 1 hour every day. That person could do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. Yes. Or the person wants to study 40 minutes. The person can do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. And all of us have this time. Usually, it's not a matter that we do not have time, it is a matter that we do not have the
Priority.
discipline of,
Yeah.
instead of looking the social media, for example, we study that, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
is not a matter of not having the time, it's a
Mm-hmm.
matter of time management, right?
Time
Because
management.
yeah, you can find 20 minutes in your day
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, even if you wake up 20 minutes before and then
Mm-hmm.
you go to bed 20 minutes later. You can find every day
Healthy
40
ways.
minutes. Yes.
Healthy ways to study that will not kill you, that will not make you sick of it. Because if you study in 1 day for 5 hours, man, my God, there's a big chance that you're gonna be sick of studying.
Yeah, and this, of course, can be a critics also to the educational system, right? That makes the
Yes.
children and the teenagers stay there like 4 or 5 hours, and in fact,
Sitting on
yeah,
a chair
learning a lot of
quietly.
things that they perhaps cannot absorb so much. But this is a discussion for other time. So there is this aspect.
Basically, no excuses, guys. You have no
No
excuses
excuse.
to say,
Hashtag.
oh, I don't have time. Hashtag no excuses.
Yeah.
You
Hashtag
can do it.
manifest your destiny. To manifest your
Yeah,
destiny, you can't have excuses.
exactly.
And so there is this aspect that the brain has what we call plasticity, right? So our brain is plastic in the sense that it adapts, it evolves, it expands. If you do not,
Creates new pathways,
you
new
create new
connections.
pathways, and for these new pathways become stable, you need to practice. You need to repeat that short, intense, and frequent. Yes.
Hmm.
So then, once we understand that the brain has plasticity, Gabi, there are two things that we can comprehend. The first thing is that we need to repeat something to create stronger connections. That's one thing. The other thing that we understand is that forgetting things is normal, right? If we
Oh, this is the moment that
breathe,
you can breathe
yeah,
relieved, guys.
yeah, forgetting things is normal, is part of the process, is a natural process. That is even a line. There was a scientist, I don't recall his name, that he identified the memory curve, yes, and then he put the on the y the retention, the percentage of retention of that information. In the x, he put the distribution of time. And then in the first 20 minutes, we tend to remember almost 190% of that information. After 1 hour, there is a very steep decline. After 1 hour, you
Oh,
might remember 60%. And after 5 hours or 9 hours, you will remember 50, 40%. Long story short, as time progresses, the retention of the memory goes down. Yes. So what we do
and your
is,
ability to focus goes down as well.
in your ability to focus goes down. But imagine that something that you learned today, tomorrow you will try to remember, you will remember 40% or 30% of what you learned. But what happens, Gabi, is that once you expose yourself again, instead of having just one line that goes down, you have the line that is going down, and then you expose yourself again. And then the memory goes up 100%. You remember completely. And now the line, instead of going so steeply down, in such an inclined manner down, it becomes smoother. Yes, it becomes less attenuated. And then in the third
Mhm.
day, you expose yourself to that 100% of retention once again, and then the decline of the curve, instead of getting steep or continue steep, it flattens, right? So
Mhm.
then you are able to learn more. This is what actually we call spaced repetition. And
Mhm.
something fundamental, spaced repetition is a memory technique that help us remembering and recalling information
Mhm.
in a distributed way, so that we optimize memory retention. Yes,
Mhm.
and that's why shorter sessions. So we see short because of the way the brain works, right? With
Mhm.
contrast, and we have a fundamentally a short focus span.
Mhm.
Intense because it means actively interacting
Mhm.
with that, so that you will be able to create more neural networks and
Mhm.
pathways. And frequent because then you work with spaced repetition. And
Mhm.
spaced repetition guarantees, or it helps in memory
Retention.
retention. So then
Mhm.
SIF, short, intense, and frequent,
Is
help
the
us,
key.
is the key to create study sessions that they are in profound alignment with how our brain works.
And it is in profound alignment as well with the objectives you probably have with learning English. Isn't that
And
right?
with the lifestyle that we have, right? Because
Yeah.
we might not have 5 hours available, but that's no
Yeah.
problem. That's no problem at all. If we maintain a consistency, frequent, that's what the consistency, half an hour, 40 minutes does wonders. Does wonders.
Mhm.
Half an hour every day during 2 years, it's a very significant time, right? And we
Mhm.
usually spend much more time than this with things that perhaps are not so aligned with our objectives. Yeah,
Mhm.
we waste time with other activities, so then we could bring about more of time management and no
Mhm.
excuse. So then,
Mhm.
Gabi, there is this idea, answering the question, right? Answering the question if we should study five
5
hours
hours in one day
or
or 1 hour a day for 5 days.
what do you think is the answer?
Of course. It's it's infinitive infinite
Infinitively?
infinitively better
Uh,
if you dedicate 1 hour a day for 5 days a week and you don't need to study in the weekend. What a wonderful thing. Uh, instead of 5 hours in just one day, because the space that day that you studied 5 hours will be it will take a long time for you to study 5 hours again. Yeah, it will take 5 days ahead. And besides, I mean, 5 hours will not be uh, awakening your curiosity to learn.
and
5 hours will be
much
boring,
easier, easier to procrastinate, right?
much
Because you
easier to
think,
procrastinate.
wow, I need to study 5 hours, and then you will be
Oh,
like, what? I will not be doing that with myself. So
yeah.
shorter sessions, they work wonders with motivation, with
Hmm.
avoiding procrastination,
Hmm.
with discipline, because it's much easier to have one session of 30 minutes than one session of 5 hours. Is much harder to
Let's say
find.
2 hours. 2 hours
Yeah,
is already hard to
exactly. It's
keep
much
up
harder
with.
to find the motivation to study for much longer than it is for study shorter periods,
Hmm.
because yeah, it's just half an hour or it's just 40 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Or if you divide
15,
two sessions
15.
every
Yeah.
day of 20 minutes,
Twenty.
it's just 20 minutes. You sit there, you absorb it, very actively taking notes, creating mind maps, asking questions, doing exercises, very actively doing it. And then at night, you do it once again.
Hmm.
40 minutes is done. It was very
Perfect.
easy.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. And
that's
you
the
will
idea.
not have excuses, because if you have the goal, you are not creating a habit. You see, if you keep a goal of studying 2 hours, let's say 2 hours a day, it will be extremely hard to keep up with that. And you probably think, oh no, I won't be able to study today, because today I don't have 2 hours.
And then the next
But
day,
you have 20 minutes in
yeah,
the morning, you have 20
exactly.
minutes at night, so
E-
no excuses. Come on.
Exactly. So, and then you think, oh, I will study every day 2 hours, but then in that day you do not have that 2 hours, and in the next day you think, oh, but I have just 30 minutes available, so I will not study, and then you spend 2 days without studying. It starts
Hmm.
becoming a snowball.
Yeah,
It becomes
yeah.
a snowball.
It
So
starts fading away.
yeah, because the plasticity of the brain is is in a unstopping movement, right? It is
Hmm.
unstoppingly going forward. And then if you do not if you don't get in touch with that, it will fade away. So then this is our argument, guys. The idea
Hmm.
that you should always prioritize studying a bit every single day, then waiting for the an alignment of the sun with Jupiter, with Saturn, with uh,
An ideal astrological alignment.
yeah, like all the planets aligned so that you can study 12 hours or 10 hours in a day. Much better
Yeah.
to do it a little bit every single day.
Yes, and I would like everyone to reinforce this commitment with your own studies. Please leave a comment right now. Don't go away. If you have made up all the video up to this point, you have to set this commitment with yourself. Leave a comment here to help you do that, saying how many hours you will study every day, how many minutes you will study every day, how many hours you will study every week, and be reasonable. Don't say, I will study 3 hours every day, including in the week. No, we don't want you to do that. We want you to be reasonable. Seriously, guys, do that. And this is a way to commit yourselves with that daily practice. You're not doing
Exactly.
this for us, you are doing this for yourselves.
Exactly. So, guys, thank you very much for
Thank
today.
you.
This is it. All the best wishes. Thank you for your attention. And
And don't miss the next episode. It will be the last episode of the series of lives, What No One Tells You About Learning English. And we will be questioning and discussing if is this possible to become fluent overnight. One day you wake up and you're fluent. Do you think that's possible? On September 16th, same channel, same time, 1 p.m. GMT -3. We'll see you there.
See you there. Take care, guys.